Good evening, live from this news center of the Sultanate of Oman television. Here we bring to you tonight's news bulletin. First, the headlines. A number of the northern governorates of the Sultanate witness light to moderate rains. French Foreign Minister, ahead of an emergency meeting in Brussels, says that the Iran nuclear accord is not dead and it's essential to salvage it. And the Democratic-controlled House approves a resolution to restrain Trump's military action against Iran. Good evening once again, and thank you for joining us. Those were the headlines, and now the news in detail. The governorates of Muscat North and South Al-Batina, Al-Dakhiliya, Musandam and Al-Buraymi witnessed light to moderate rains, causing a number of wadis and its tributaries to overflow. Here are some scenes of rains from the wilaya of Suhar in the governorate of North Al-Batina. Weather analysis in the National Multi-Hazard Early Warning Center indicate that the Sultanate continues to be affected by a trough of low pressure till Sunday, the 12th of January 2020. A statement issued by the Public Authority for Civil Aviation said that chances of rain showers with various intensities, occasionally thunder showers, are expected to affect the governorate of Musandam, Al-Buraymi, North and South Al-Batina, Al-Dhahira, Muscat, Al-Dakhiliya, North and South Al-Sharqiya. Seas will be moderate to rough along most of the Sultanate's coast, with the wave height ranging from 1.5 meters to 2.5 meters. The Public Authority for Civil Aviation advises all to take precautions while raining, avoid crossing following wadis and check the sea state before sailing. Still to come in our news bulletin. Wadi Shafan villages tell the story of man and land. Welcome back to the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. European foreign affairs ministers and NATO Secretary General are in Brussels to reiterate their support for a nuclear deal brokered with Iran in 2015. Despite calls from US President Donald Trump for it to break away from the deal, the European Union remains committed to the treaty. French Foreign Minister Yves Le Drian has said ahead of the emergency meeting that the Iran nuclear accord is not dead and it's essential to salvage it. Le Drian warned before the meeting that Iran could have a nuclear weapon in 1 or 2 years if the country fully breaks with a nuclear containment accord it reached with world powers in 2015. He added that if they continue with unraveling the Vienna Agreement, then yes, with a fairly short period of time, between 1 and 2 years, they could have access to a nuclear weapon, which is not an option. Iran has been gradually discarding the deal's limitations on its enrichment of uranium for nuclear fuel since President Donald Trump withdrew the United States from the accord in 2018, demanding tougher curbs on Iran. Iran said its steps away from the deal are reversible if Washington returns to it and lifts crippling sanctions that have threatened much of Iran's lifeblood oil trade. Iran today denied Western allegations that one of its own missiles downed a Ukrainian jetliner that crashed outside Tehran and called on the US and Canada to share any information they have on the crash which killed all 176 people on board. Western leaders said the plane appeared to have been unintentionally hit by surface-to-air missiles just hours after Iran launched around a dozen ballistic missiles at 2 U.S. bases in Iraq to avenge the killing of its top general in an American airstrike last week. The ballistic missiles attack on the bases in Iraq caused no casualties, raising hopes that the standoff over the killing of General Qasem Soleimani would end relatively peacefully through Iran, although Iran has sent mixed signals over whether its retaliation is complete. Reigniting a debate over who has the power to declare war, the Democratic-controlled House yesterday approved a resolution asserting that President Donald Trump must seek approval from the Congress before engaging in further military action against Iran. The war powers resolution is not binding on the president and would not require his signature, but House Speaker Nancy Pelosi nonetheless insisted it has really teeth because it is a statement of the Congress of the United States. Pelosi said the measures will protect American lives and values by limiting Trump's military actions, and the administrations must de-escalate and must prevent further violence. The House passed the measures 224 to 194 with almost no Republican support. A spokesman for one of Libya's rival factions has said its forces will keep fighting for the country's capital after Russia and Turkey called for a ceasefire on Wednesday. A spokesman for the self-styled Libyan Arab Armed Forces, Ahmed al-Mismar, said that the group's battalions will still try to take control of country's capital Tripoli from what he called terrorist groups. He welcomed what he called the peace initiative, but attached a number of conditions to achieving a ceasefire, including the dissolving and disarming of militias and an end to military aid. The armed forces led by ex-General Khalifa Haftar have been waging an offensive to try to take the city for months. The United Nations-backed government led by Prime Minister Fayez Sarraj, meanwhile, welcomed the proposed ceasefire. Communities across Australia's fire-ravaged southeast were bracing for a long day of mounting danger today. Thousands abandoned their homes for evacuation centres, and military helicopters dropped emergency supplies to towns at risk of being isolated by blazes fanned by rising winds. The danger is centred on New South Wales and Victoria, Australia's most populous states, where temperatures and wind speeds are escalating after a few days of relatively benign conditions. The New South Wales Rural Fire Services has warned that coastal towns such of Sydney, including Eden, Batemans Bay and Norwa, could again be under threat weeks after losing homes to the fires. But an easing of conditions is forecast over the coming week, which will allow wary firefighters to consolidate containment lanes around the fires. The unprecedented fire crisis in southeast Australia has claimed at least 26 lives, destroyed more than 2,000 homes, and scorched an area twice the size of the U.S. state of Maryland since September. A wildlife park owner on South Australia's Kangaroo Islands has vowed to defend his property as several bushfires threatened the animal sanctuary. Dozens of rescue and injured koalas, kangaroos, wallabies, wombats and other animals have been brought into the facility in recent days. An emergency triage area has also been set up in the park, allowing staff and army personnel to treat the large volumes of animals arriving for treatment. The park's owner said that some of the animals have had to be euthanized. The WWF has estimated that about 25,000 koalas have died on the island since fires began in December. At least 170,000 hectares of land has been burnt, and 2 people have died from the island's ongoing blazes. Once again, back to some more local news. Forensics lab in Royal Oman Police is one of the essential police units. The lab is equipped with latest equipment, technologies and tools that help evaluating evidence in criminal matters. Royal Oman Police Management has poured considerable resources and manpower in the lab to carry out its diverse functions through its wide spectrum of divisions. Royal Oman Police hired skilled staff specialized in dealing with forensics lab works and has provided them with training opportunities to keep them abreast with the latest advancements in the field. The lab regularly receives requests from other government institutions, including public prosecutions and public authority for civil defense and ambulance. In the Wilayat of Al-Khabura, Wadi Shafan villages are blessed with extraordinary view of the open valleys where locals take care of their palm trees and the tall mountains that tell a story of man and land. On the villages, some people still tend to their farms, others enjoy to spend their times with the company of their friends and relatives near the village where clear water is bountiful. Wadi Shafan can be an ideal outing area for families and for those who desire a relief from the high-paced lifestyle of the cities, as clear water runs near the mountains and the view of long plum trees exceeds the mind of the villagers and visitors alike. You're watching the Sultanate of Oman television, and to end this news bulletin, here are the main points once again. A number of the northern governorates of the Sultanate witnessed light to moderate rains. French Foreign Minister ahead of an emergency meeting in Brussels says that the Iran nuclear accord is not dead and it's essential to salvage it. And the Democratic-controlled House approves a resolution to restrain Trump's military action against Iran. And with that, we do conclude this news bulletin brought to you live from this news center of the Sultanate of Oman television. From the entire news team and myself, we thank you for joining us, wish you a pleasant evening and good night.